Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, gave today. She spoke to the National Conservatism Conference that took place. Now, what is the National Conservatism Conference? This is an event that was put together by conservatives that are emphasizing nationalism in terms of economic tariffs, in terms of America first and not meddling around the world. There's a layer of conservatives that are emphasizing kind of the nationalistic edge of Trumpism. And a whole bunch of conservatives spoke at this event. I am not a typical conservative. I guess, I did think Trump was the lesser of two evils in the last election. He's done a lot to make me somewhat regret that with, bombing Iran and going after the Palestine protesters and the ICE raids and all of that. But, meeting with Putin and the Russiagate revelations and, Trump, it's a mixed bag. But, I was hoping Trump would be a lot better than he is. And I'm certainly not a conservative in most any sense of the word. I've never really considered myself a conservative, but the idea that we would end these wars, the idea that we would have a government focused on the economy here and improving people's lives, that very much appeals to me. And Tulsi Gabbard is the most important government official in our lifetime. She is somebody who has a record of being anti-war. She is someone who has consistently opposed the lies that get us into war. She raised alarms about biolabs in Ukraine that were being built to target Russians. She advocated peace talks with North Korea. She's warned about the danger of nuclear war. And she gave this speech today at the National Conservatism Conference. And so I thought we would watch that speech and just kind of go through it, because we have to understand there's a fight happening behind closed doors within the White House. And she's part of that. And she represents the forces of good that want to stop World War III, that want to improve our relationship with the anti-imperialist countries and the BRICS. And so she's invited to this big conservative gathering. She spoke for 14 minutes, not a big, long speech, just a brief speech that she gave. We're going to go through her speech bit by bit and just try to digest what she said. Not necessarily everything she says here is necessarily good, or it's certainly not what we would say as the Center for Political Innovation. But she's the Director of National Intelligence. She's in a fight now with the CIA. She has stripped of security clearances all kinds of CIA operatives that were involved in the Russiagate hoax and saying that Trump works for Putin and all kinds of stuff like that. So let's just go through Tulsi Gabbard's speech to the National Conservatism Conference and see if we can kind of decode and learn anything from the speech.
I'm so glad to be able to come and to be able to greet you in person and just talk a little bit about the grave challenges that we face, yes, in the work that we're doing on a daily basis. It's very appropriate that I'm following Mike Benz in this because he's focused on a lot of the same things that we are focused on investigating and uncovering. But really the challenges that he is talking about are challenges that every one of us as Americans are facing. And the task is not just for a Mike Benz or for a certain agency to take on. This is a moment of opportunity in our country where we have to be very clear-eyed about the direct threats and challenges to our fundamental rights and liberties and freedoms and what we, the people, are going to do about it.
Now that's big, right? So right there, out of the bat, she's telling everybody, look, there's a fight going on, right? There are big threats to our freedom, big threats to our liberties, and she views her position as the Director of National Intelligence. She views it as a place through which this fight can be waged. She's not just doing routine intelligence work. She's not just, no, she is in a fight to preserve our freedom. And she is using her position to carry out this fight. Now, that's really, really important right there. So right there, she's telling you she views herself as on a mission, and she is contending with powerful forces. There's a verse in the Bible that talks about we wrestle not against principalities, but against, dark forces in high places, right? And I talk about divisions in the ruling class and Bonapartism. Right there, she's telling you, there is a fight within the Trump administration. There is a fight within the halls of power. As the Director of National Intelligence, she is in that fight.
When we look at how it came to be for me and for others who I serve alongside to be here, And to be a part of this change, we go back to the 2024 election and look at how President Trump was reelected and sent back to the White House by a truly unique cross-partisan coalition of Americans who looked beyond labels and really were attracted to his message of putting the American people first.
That's so true. If Trump had just ran as a Republican, a normal Republican, he would have lost. Trump won because he had RFK. He won because he had Tulsi Gabbard. He won because he had Dr. Phil. He won because he had, all kinds of great people there, Hollywood Hogan. And I mean, it was a coalition of all of us Americans that have been left out. I remember at Madison Square Garden, Dr. Phil got up there and talked about bullying and how there's been such a big effort to bully and cancel and smear anyone who supports Donald Trump. And Dr. Phil was on there talking about cancel culture and how awful it was. And Tulsi Gabbard is up there talking about wars and how we don't need more wars. And RFK, Kennedy, a lifelong Democrat, is talking about the vaccine cover-up and how we all got scammed by the vaccine makers and people who want war with Russia. And yeah, there were a lot of normal Republicans like Rudy Giuliani and others, but Trump won because he built a kind of left out coalition. All the people that have been left out of the American establishment, basically, all the people that are saying we don't like the way the country's going, and the club, the elite that are taking us in that direction, whether it's the Hollywood club, whether it's the ultra rich, whether it's the big monopolies, whoever it is, we're not liking what the club is doing. That's very, very powerful. So yeah, let's be clear about that the reason that Trump won was because he ran an anti-establishment coalition.
It was a resounding statement in his win of that election by a significant and historic margin. And it was a clear rejection of the status quo of the Washington elite, of political leaders who put their own self-interest ahead of the interests of the American people. And it was a demand for a government of, by, and for the people.
Yeah, and people forget that, okay? Forget about how much Trump has disappointed us since he's taken office. Bombing Iran, attacking the Palestine students, the ICE raids. Trump has done plenty of things that we can be critical of. It would be so much worse if Trump had not won. If Kamala had won, that would have been an electoral mandate for war with Russia. If Kamala had won, that would have been an electoral mandate for cancel culture and erasing and destroying people's lives because they disagree with what the government has done. If Kamala had won, it would have been a mandate supporting all the insane political correctness. It would have been a mandate supporting all the awful things Joe Biden did, raiding the home of the Uhuru Three, raiding Scott Ritter's home. It would have been saying that the way things were under Biden was going to continue. It's so good that Kamala Harris did not win, right? As much as Trump may have disappointed us, at least people voted for Trump on the platform of he was going to end the wars. He was going to put America first. He was going to protect our free speech and our freedoms, and the American people voted for that. Now, they may not have gotten it, but that's what they voted for. And if the American people had registered their vote of support for the nightmare of the Biden administration, that would have been a disaster. And instead, they registered their vote of support for ending the war in Ukraine, for ending the wars around the world, protecting our freedom, ending the insane political correctness and smearing and targeting. Let's be clear about that.
So here we are about 7-8 months into this administration. President Trump has wasted no time in challenging this system, this broken system in Washington, and striking at its very root, delivering results for the American people to make our nation more safe, secure, prosperous, and free. I have the privilege of serving as America's 8th Director of National Intelligence, and President Trump has entrusted in me the mission and responsibility of overseeing the intelligence community, this sprawling network of agencies and entities that are charged with the task of providing timely and objective intelligence to the president and policymakers, free from politicization.
Now, what she just said is very important, right? This job of the intelligence agencies is to gather information. And they're not supposed to set policy. It's the president who decides what our relationship with different countries is going to be. It's the president and the executive branch that decide, what we're going to do as a country. The intelligence agencies are supposed to carry out policy. They're not supposed to create policy. But that's not been the case. The CIA has been crafting our culture, right? The Congress for Cultural Freedom, where they were funding Partisan Review magazine and funding the art of Jackson Pollock and pushing certain ideas. The CIA has completely meddled in American politics and pushed certain policies and certain agendas that they think would be good for us. And they're not supposed to do that. They're just supposed to gather information and let the elected officials determine what the government does and what our relationships are. But they don't do that, right? The intelligence agencies are acting as, I think Bill Moyers from PBS, he did a piece, he called it the shadow government, right? That they, the secret government, the shadow government, the intelligence agencies basically decide what they want, and elected officials just kind of rubber stamp it or go along with it, or in some cases don't even know about it. So here we go.
Unfortunately, in my short 10 years here so far, we have already seen too many examples of politicization and weaponization of intelligence throughout our country's history. We look at where we are now. Over the last several weeks, we've declassified and released documents that exposed how President Obama and leaders in the intelligence community knowingly manufactured a false intelligence document after the 2016 election was done, after the American people said, no, we want Donald Trump to go and be our commander-in-chief, not Hillary Clinton. And this manufactured document alleged that Russia aspired to help President Trump win the election with the aim of undermining his presidency and usurping the will and the voices of the American people.
Yeah, she has revealed, it is now a public record, that they made up the idea that Russia meddled in the election. And I got to say, I get the emails of Media Matters for America, and I get the emails of a lot of different entities, liberal entities, and they're saying, oh, it's a no, this is a flop, there's nothing here. What do you mean there's nothing here? This is huge. This is absolutely huge. All of the Trump, Russia stuff was made up. It was fake news. And the intelligence agencies did multiple assessments, said Russia was not trying to interfere in our elections. And then after the election was over, Obama said, I want a different answer. They came up with a different answer. And because of that different answer, Trump wasn't able to improve relations with Russia. He was under investigation in his first term. Because of that different information, the FBI was able to suppress the Hunter Biden laptop story and enable a key news story, an October surprise that would have enabled Trump to get reelected, enabled the media to suppress that, saying it was Russian propaganda when they knew it wasn't. And because of that, Biden won the 2020 election. And this lie kept going, and it ultimately led to a war. And the war in Ukraine would never have happened if the intelligence agencies had not lied about Russiagate. If the Trump-Russia conspiracy theory that was bandied about the media, if that had not been told by our intelligence agencies, cooked up for political reasons, hundreds of thousands of people that have died in the Russian, Russia-Ukraine special military operation war conflict would still be alive. Can you believe this? A war happened because they lied. That's big. And Tulsi has revealed that.
Trump to the White House. When you look at some of the very same leaders who led this manufactured intelligence document, like James Clapper, also had a very direct hand in manufacturing intelligence on the weapons of mass destruction, the alleged weapons of mass destruction in Iraq to support George W. Bush's regime change war in Iraq. For me to be here as the 8th Director of National Intelligence and uncover how James Clapper and others like John Brennan manufactured intelligence to try to undermine President Trump's administration and presidency and the voices of the American people, and then go back to the founding of the Office of the Director of National Intelligence that came about as a result of the terrorist attack on 9/11 and the manufacturing of intelligence to support the regime change war in Iraq that George Bush led, is an interesting bookend where we find ourselves still dealing with these same issues of politicization and weaponization of intelligence. James Clapper at that time was the director of the agency that is now called the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, or NGA. And he wrote in his book about how Vice President Dick Cheney was pushing for intelligence to support the invasion of Iraq, to support the narrative of Iraq's alleged WMDs, and to support the narrative of Iraq's alleged ties to al-Qaeda, neither of which actually existed.
Yeah. So this is really important. This is extremely important, right? Tulsi's not just saying that the intelligence agencies, came up with this Russiagate lie to hurt Trump. She's saying that the very same people, including James Clapper, cooked the books to say that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction and that Iraq was involved in 9/11. So she's going after Obama for how he used the intelligence agencies. She's going after Bush and Dick Cheney for how they used the intelligence agencies. And she's pointing out that it's the same people. It's the exact same people. It's not like a different administration. It's not the Democrats here. No, it's the same people. There's a continuity when they talk about the deep state, right? It's the same group of people that lied about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. They're the same people that lied about Russiagate, and they're neoconservatives. They're neocons, right? They're former Trotskyites who believe the USA is on a mission to spread democracy and spread the free market all over the world and overthrow governments, right? It's the neocons, and it's the people trained in Sovietology. It's the neocons, and it's the same people. And she's pointing out that they were Republicans during the Bush years, and they were Democrats during the Obama years, and they are lying, and they are manipulating the government, and the intelligence agencies are supposed to give briefings to the president to tell him the truth, not to feed an agenda.
So in response to this, James Clapper ordered his agency to create images that Colin Powell then went on to use to support their alleged WMD narrative. And in James Clapper's words, we were, quote, so eager to help that we found what wasn't really there.
Wow. So hear this. This is the same guy, right? James Clapper, who rigged intelligence to say that, Trump had gotten support from Russia. And he said that when Dick Cheney told them to say that Iraq is making weapons of mass destruction, he said they were so eager to find it, they found what wasn't there. They lied.
Quote. We've seen other examples, those that we know of. There are many others that I believe we don't yet know of, how leaders in the intelligence community and the FBI knowingly use false information to gain FISA warrants to illegally spy on American citizens.
Yeah. In order to violate your privacy and spy on you, they have to get a warrant. So the FBI lies and says things that are not true in order to get those warrants to spy on you. Right. And we saw that at the Uhuru trial. They admitted on the stand that all kinds of things that were included in the indictment that brought the criminal charges against Chairman O'Malley, against Jesse Neville and Penny Hess, all kinds of things that were in the indictment, the FBI admitted they had no evidence of. They just made them up in order to get the indictment to bring the charges against them. The intelligence agencies, including the FBI and the CIA, they lie in order to violate our freedoms, in order to spy on us, etc. This is a big problem. And Tulsi Gabbard began her speech by saying, I am the director of national intelligence because I'm in the fight to protect our freedoms from these people, from these liars, from these neocons, right? So we have somebody in the highest position of American intelligence who is, to some degree or other, even though I don't agree with her about Israel, and there's plenty that I'm sure if her and I sat down and had coffee, we could argue about, but she at least understands that we are under threat from the war makers and the repressive agencies, the FBI and others, violating our freedom, and that she views her job as trying to make things better and trying to hold them back. This is important. This is really, 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 really important, folks.
These are just a few of, unfortunately, what is a long list of known examples of politicization and weaponization that all point to the truth that many of us here in this room know, which is that the rot runs deep. And it's not just in the intelligence community. I've seen examples of this across almost every federal agency. And so it requires us all to confront the uncomfortable truth that we have these conspirators, these traitors to the Constitution, who are working within our government, who dangerously believe that they are not only above the law, but that they are above the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. People who believe that they have the right to undermine the duly elected President of the United States because they disagree with his positions or his policies, and that they know better.
Yeah, right? The secret government, the shadow government, the forces that believe they have the right to overrule the American people. They have the right to tell noble lies. And, the intelligence apparatus is full of people who think they have the right to rule over us. And that's a problem.
We go back to the first Trump administration, and a prominent example of then former Lieutenant Colonel Vindman. And I remember being in Congress as a Democrat at the time, seeing his testimony and the testimony of others basically saying, well, we have to protect the country from Donald Trump, the person the American people elected to be the President of the United States. Whether we agree or disagree on policy is not the point. If you disagree on policy, go run for president and market your policies to the American people. It undermines our Constitution, our democratic republic, when we have people within our government who are not the President of the United States, who are not elected by the American people, taking it upon themselves to undermine, ultimately, the American people and the Constitution.
Yes, our republic, our elected government, our Constitution is under threat from the globalists, from the big monopolies and the people they've cultivated in their think tanks, from the neocons, the former Trotskyites, the Council on Foreign Relations, the World Economic Forum. There's a layer of people that are foot soldiers of imperialism that have decided they are above the voters of America. And they think they can lie, and they think they can do what they want, and they don't have to listen to elected leaders. This is the crisis that we are in.
These people have gotten away with these kinds of activities for so long because they're protected by an entire system that is built to shield their nefarious activities. And they do this with the assistance and the protection of the deep state and the propaganda media. And those of us who have been targeted by this deep state are very familiar with the tactics. Keep this in mind. This happens frequently in real time as we gather here today, where someone in the intelligence community leaks classified intelligence to their friends in the propaganda media. Those individuals in the propaganda media eagerly print this classified intelligence from unnamed sources. Then we see other people in the media talk about this classified intelligence. No one's verified it. No one's done any kind of vetting. No one has done any basic journalistic work. And then we see politicians repeating and talking about this thing that was leaked to the media.
Yeah. And they're perverts too, right? They're obsessed with sex, right? A great example of what she just said, where they take something that's not true, that's classified, and they blast it everywhere without ever fact checking it in order to hurt someone's reputation, is the PP tape. Do you remember that? Right after Donald Trump got elected, they say, oh, we've got evidence that Russia has a tape of Donald Trump getting peed on by a prostitute. And it's true, right? Oh, Donald Trump got peed on by a prostitute in Russia, and that's how he's controlled. And now it's revealed they knew the whole time that it was bullshit. The Steele dossier wasn't real, and it was a nasty sexual rumor about Donald Trump that had absolutely no credibility, but they blasted it all over the media, and all kinds of mainstream media outlets reported it as if it was true. And they said, they treated it like it was just a fact, and they're like this, right? And they destroy people's reputations, and they have built an apparatus designed to target anyone who would try to defend our elected government and our right to not go into wars and not have our tax money poured into wars and not launch World War III. and they target people viciously, and it's always some weird sexual thing, right? I think the deep state is unhealthily obsessed with sex. We know that during Project MK Ultra, one of the things they did is they had prostitutes, lure guys to hotels or whatever, and then get them high on hallucinogens to see what would happen. And they're obsessed with the LGBT thing, and it's like they're constantly trying to find weird sexual stuff that they can talk about, right? And they blast it in the media. They destroy people's reputations. Me Too was very much an intelligence operation. Is it obviously true that sexual harassment goes on? Sure. But you'll notice some people got their lives destroyed with Me Too and some didn't, right? And it was very carefully arranged. Meanwhile, we still don't have the facts about Jeffrey Epstein and what went on with that. And the P. Diddy case went on for years, and then P. Diddy even got acquitted at his trial. What's going on here, right? And that they manipulate, and they're obsessed with sex and rumors, and they use the mainstream media that blasts allegations and lies and exaggerations about certain people. And yeah, I mean, this is what we're up against. This is the deep state, the shadow government of perverts that are trying to smear and lie to keep us in wars.
And we've seen how this tried and true playbook that is used over and over again to either smear their opponents, to, in President Trump's case, to be used as a basis for FBI raids on his home, lawfare, impeachments, endless investigations, and so forth. So I get asked oftentimes by people who don't come to events like this, who are just working hard and trying to raise a family and trying to get by, and they say, what is the deep state? People talk about the deep state. What is it? This is what we're talking about. It's not some grand conspiracy theory. It is a conspiracy to undermine the Constitution, but this is the reality that we are operating in. And it's important for us to talk about it, to be very clear-eyed about it, so that we can combat it with the truth.
Yeah. It's an apparatus that's been created to defend what is indefensible, right? I mean, U.S. foreign policy is indefensible. The U.S. invasion of Iraq was based on lies, didn't make Iraq better. The USA occupied Afghanistan for 20 years, and it didn't make life better for the Afghans at all. It was instability and chaos and drug gangs and the opium fields, the poppy fields. The USA overthrew Libya, the most prosperous government on the African continent, and things haven't gotten better. It's indefensible. Supporting U.S. foreign policy is indefensible. Everyone can see that, right? There is not a single place in recent times, maybe since World War II, that you could say the U.S. military and the U.S. CIA went in there and they overthrew a government and they destabilized a country and they toppled a government, toppled the regime, and life got better. It's indefensible. And in order to believe that it's defensible, you just have to be an idiot. And that's what mainstream media is full of. It's full of idiots. People like Anderson Cooper, right? People like Rachel Maddow. It's full of idiots, right? And if you're not an idiot, then you just have enough common sense to say, the emperor really has no clothes, and these wars don't make things better. And these governments that we overthrow, and they're not all pure evil. And Gaddafi raised all kinds of people out of poverty and all that. Well, what do? They come up with a bunch of sexual bullshit about you. They smear you. They make up the PP tape. They send the FBI to raid your home and all of that. And that it can't be subjected to real scrutiny, right? And that's why they're furious that RT, oh my God, we can't have RT. We can't have a TV network from another country giving another perspective. Oh my God, we can't have alternative media. We can't. No. Because it's indefensible. They can't stand up to the facts. And so all they can do is smear and attack. And it's the shadow government. It's not what the American people voted for. And this is the deep state, this layer that is propping up a satanic foreign policy that is leading to wars all over the world while America gets poorer and poorer and poorer, right? That is the deep state. Right. And that imperialism, the global economic system that is propped up by all these wars, that is impoverishing us, it has built up an apparatus of intelligence and think tanks and people that think they're on a mission, and they defend the indefensible, and they respond with smearing and deception and leaks and FBI raids and all kinds of stuff to prop up their satanic order.
This is why exposing the truth is so important, to bring about that real transparency and that accountability. Ensuring that our Constitution and Bill of Rights, and this is something that I'm focused on in the Office of the Director of National Intelligence and pushing throughout the intelligence community, is actually focusing on the Constitution, making it an event. When new people are brought into any of these organizations, every one of them has to swear an oath, as many here did if you served in the military, if you've served in different positions in government, to support and defend the Constitution, to talk about it, have a discussion. What does this actually mean, and how do we apply it in the work that is done every single day? Because it must be our North Star every day. It must be that guiding principle that serves as our foundation and the left and right limits on the decisions that are being made within our work. Those who serve in government in any position, at the very top, or those who may be coming in brand new, our sole focus must be on serving the American people and upholding the Constitution and Bill of Rights.
Yeah, right now we've got to defend our Constitution from the shadow government. Our government is overrun by neocon war hawks and elitists that are determined to prop up globalism, imperialism, this satanic international order that requires endless human sacrifices in terms of blood and destroyed nations and deaths. We are run by a satanic international order that is propped up by these forces. The American people oppose it, and so they're essentially trying to get rid of our Constitution and trying to get rid of the ability of the American people to oppose them. It's a really big problem.
It's very, I feel, appropriate that I'm coming and speaking to you after Mike Benz and hearing at least some of the things he talked about at the end about the various attacks on our fundamental rights, freedoms, and liberties that are occurring not only here in the United States, but how these threats are coming from policies and agreements that are being talked about in multinational organizations and settings. Our founding documents were based on our inalienable rights and freedoms that are granted to us by God and no one else. And it's up to us to continue to speak that truth and stand up against those who seek to take them away, no matter where they are or who they are. We have a lot of work to do. We are working hard every day towards this end. When you look at how deeply entrenched the deep state is, those who believe they are more powerful than the Constitution, you can understand the work that we have ahead of us. But I'm grateful to serve in this position, grateful to President Trump for entrusting me with this mission to truly seek the truth, find the truth, and tell the truth to the American people so that true accountability and true change, lasting change, can come about. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. This change will only be possible if every one of us as Americans stands together and fights for it. The future of our country as a free nation is truly in our hands, and we cannot be complacent. We cannot fall asleep at the wheel and allow anyone to sneak in the back door and take it from us, literally and figuratively. So this movement for positive change, institutional and historic change, is about more than one person or one organization. It's about all of us, and it's about restoring the promise of America and the vision that our founders had for our country. And as we go back and look at their courage and their strength and the threats that were laid on them as they worked to write these founding documents, I hope that that gives us inspiration and courage and strength to fight the battles that we have before us, because we are the ones that they were referring to when they talked about a government of, by, and for the people. We're the only ones who can make it happen. Thank you for standing for freedom and liberty and truth. Aloha.
That is the most important government official that has existed in my lifetime. She is waging a war behind closed doors within the Trump administration, outside of the administration, against the very dark, sinister forces that have pushed us into so many wars and want to rule over us. We need to do everything we can to support Tulsi Gabbard right now, okay? And, I know that she's doesn't agree with a lot of us on a lot of issues, but what you just heard there is a fight going on, okay? This is like Lincoln versus the slaveholders. Plenty to criticize about Lincoln, but it's on that level. Lincoln was against the slaveholders. She's against the war makers, right? And she's waging a fight in which our ability to have a government that doesn't lie us into wars is possibly in question. So we must do everything that we can to support Tulsi Gabbard right now. And we at CPI, we have been doing everything we can to support Tulsi Gabbard.
Russia, peace with Russia. Build the peace bridge. Build the peace bridge. End Ukraine war. End Ukraine war.
We are promoting peace, no war with Ukraine. And you can see the skyline of downtown LA and the famous Echo Park fountain there.
Out here in Boston today, we're here because last night the world breathed a sigh of relief. Our leaders have been hurtling towards the edge of the nuclear cliff, moving the world closer and closer to nuclear war. And although Trump has done many things that are absolutely horrible, last night he did something that was great.
Out here to support the peace summit between President Trump and President Putin, and to thank Tulsi Gabbard for making it possible.
That we are in extreme historic times right now. President Trump is currently in the great state of Alaska, attempting to make peace between the United States and Russia.
If what's happening today in Alaska will get us closer to peace, that's what we want. That's what we want.
Yesterday's meeting between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin was a major step in the right direction. We need more dialogue, more engagement to come to the end of this war.
Hey, we're here in Portland, Oregon. CPI is on the streets of Portland, Oregon. We want to say that we support the peace deal being made between Trump and Putin in Alaska.
Hi guys, we're here at Liberty Station in San Diego. Liberty Station used to be a base that was purpose for training Marines and U.S. sailors during World War II. I thought it'd be pretty symbolic to come here, seeing as how, the U.S. and Russia, they worked together in order to defeat Nazi Germany during World War II. I think this is also a beautiful spot to do this kind of activity in general.
Peace with Russia! Peace with Russia! Build the peace bridge! Build the peace bridge! Build the peace bridge! End the war! End the war!
Something amazing happened yesterday. I don't care how you feel about Trump, but this act of peace, and the fact that our president had the patience to go over there in Alaska. Putin came to our country just yesterday and they made a lot of progress. And so we were out here because we want to put more support for this kind of effort. I have 3 children, and I want my children to grow up in a world of peace.
By declassifying the proof that Russiagate was a lie, it wasn't a plot against Trump, it was a plot against peace. It was a plot by James Clapper and John Brennan and Hillary Clinton to prevent an alliance between Russia and the United States. And now Tulsi Gabbard has blown the Russiagate lie wide open and given the President of the United States the freedom to make peace again. This is part of a worldwide day of action called by Caleb Blauvin and the Center for Political Innovation. Rallies like this are happening all over the United States and even on other continents.
We support peace talks and Ukraine war. 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 Now you'll notice that we have signs here for Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard is the Director of National Intelligence, and she is the one who is really responsible for the fact that there are peace negotiations taking place. She revealed that Russiagate was a complete hoax and that there was no Russian interference in the 2016 elections. And with her revelations, she made it possible for President Trump and President Putin to sit down. We really appreciate what Tulsi Gabbard has done. Thank you, Tulsi. Thank you, Tulsi Gabbard. Thank you, Tulsi. Thank you, Tulsi.
Thank you, Tulsi.
Thank you, Tulsi. Thank you, Tulsi.
Russiagate was a big attack on peace, a big attack on the American people. And now that that's out of the way, thanks to Tulsi Gabbard, thanks to the journalism of Aaron Monte and others, Trump, you have the green light to make peace in Alaska with Russia. So let's get the job done because we have a lot of work to do. We have a new nuclear treaty to negotiate. The START treaty is running out.
And the opening that was created for that was made by somebody by the name of Tulsi Gabbard. We'd like to thank Tulsi Gabbard for allowing that to happen because she revealed that Russiagate was an absolute hoax. And it was a complete lie. The fact of the matter is Russia did not interfere with our elections. In fact, they withheld plenty of information that they had on the Clinton administration, on the Clintons, etc., because they thought that she would actually win the election. It was a complete hoax.
The work she's been doing and continues to do, exposing Obama, Clinton, and others, has made repairing relations with Russia possible. She has shown Russiagate to be a hoax. She has shown they knew what they were doing. Obama rejected intelligence reports saying Russia was not interfering in our elections. Tulsi G has set us free to stop the march towards World War III. Tulsi G has set us free to stop the march towards World War III. Thank you, Tulsi. You have freed President Trump and given him the courage and the ability to finally have the meeting with President Putin that he should have had 8 years ago.
Have a moment of reflection that I call a prayer. Pray for peace. And as my faith is Christian faith, so I would like to do the prayer in my faith tradition.
This is our city, our beloved New York, and we say finally it's time for peace in America. Our hard-earned tax dollars should no longer be going to a foreign Eastern European country that has chosen the path of destruction in needless war.
We support peace talks with Russia. No more Ukrainian and Russian death. We support peace talks in Alaska. We need to end the war with Ukraine and stop all the killing and stop funding the wars now. We support the peace talks with Putin today, now.
Had it not been for horrible leadership that egged on this war, never needed to happen. It needs to end now rather than later.
Talking peace talks with Putin is big victory for us. Russia isn't the enemy. And we are celebrating Trump is the right thing by talking with Putin. This is the right path to peace. Putin is not the enemy. NATO is the enemy. NATO is the enemy here. Trump is not the enemy. It's NATO and the globalists and the imperialists. It's the people who want to start sending our children to a war that's not ours.
We just want to stop the lies and the killing and the funding for the...
Yeah, how about not taking money from more profiteers, companies like Raytheon, Adam Schiff?
Yeah, exactly.
Freaking liar. I don't want to hear it. Adam Schiff is the #1 guy responsible for, besides Hillary Clinton, promoting war with Russia. He's not our friend.
A peace deal to make, so let's get it done. Trump, you have the support of regular Americans. Regular Americans want this war to end. We want the killing to stop. So you have the green light, make a peace deal.
Russia did not start this war. It was in 2014 when Victoria Nuland and other nefarious actors in the Obama administration overthrew the Ukrainian government and installed a fanatically anti-Russian government that bombed and destroyed the people of the eastern regions in Donetsk and Luhansk. It bombed them for 8 years. And there's a monument in Donetsk to all the children that have been killed by the Ukrainian nationalists, and it was Russia that put a stop to that. And we are so glad that instead of pursuing death and destruction, we can finally open the door to peace.
Been sleepwalking Americans into war. Sweet lies about how war will solve all our problems while we degrade our own economy. We get poorer and indebted with expensive housing, cheap, crappy infrastructure that's breaking. What the hell kind of economy is this? What are we living for? I'm sick of my tax dollars going to endless wars. Alright? The whole country is sick of it. Pissed off. I'm showing some emotion because I'm speaking for a silent majority that I never see on the news for some reason.
Countries are trading with each other and doing business. They're not going to go to war with each other. And that's why that Bering Sea tunnel that Donald Trump is talking about with President Putin, that could be the road to a whole new world. It's pivoting the United States away from the NATO countries and closer to the explosion of growth that is happening in Eurasia right now, in the Russian Far East. Every year in Russia, they have the Vladivostok Economic Forum. So many people in Siberia are being lifted out of poverty, and America can be part of that. American companies can make money from it.
Whether you like it or not, Russia is our neighbor. Alaska pretty much is only like 50 miles away from Russia. And something I learned after living in Harlem for a year and a half, and people do get shot out there. If you don't want to get shot, then you don't piss off your neighbor. And Russia is our neighbor.
We're not protesting that today. Here we are protesting for an end. Supporting, actually, not really protesting. I don't want to use that word. More so demonstrating in support of an end to the Ukraine conflict. And that's what we're trying to do here at Liberty Station. I'm going to be walking down to the waterfront and then going further into Seaport Village, perhaps going deeper into downtown San Diego as well. But we're going to see what kind of reactions we got. So far, it's been fairly positive.
We are here in Minneapolis to support the peace talks and end the Ukraine war. We want money for schools and jobs and healthcare, not for arming Nazis in Ukraine. America first, not Ukraine first. America first, not Israel first. We want our tax dollars to go for our country. We have infrastructure that needs to be built. Our bridges are falling apart. Our roads are falling apart. Let's spend that money and put Americans to work to rebuild the country.
With Russia, we need peace talks with Russia. No war with China. We need peace in everywhere. This is a global action. This needs to be talked. I know the media does not talk about this, and this is an important issue. They're going to say how could he talk to Putin? Oh my God, Putin, so scared. No, it's NATO that's the problem. NATO is the problem, not Putin. It's a joke. We are here to say that we do not want a World War III, and we agree with this peace talk between Trump and Putin. This is something that needs to happen. This is telling me that there is a chance for America, a new America, to work with BRICS. This is a chance for us. This is a chance for the American working class people. We need to pay attention to this. This is more important than the other media stuff and your hip hop and your other music. This is what you guys need to pay attention to. The working class families in America are failing. Meanwhile, other countries are thriving because they're pulling away from NATO and they're paying their tax dollars in their country. Meanwhile, in Chicago, our infrastructure is failing. This is why we need a government of action that fights for working families. We need a government of action that fights for working families. So this is why we're here, because this is important.
None of that hip hop, none of that other stuff that you hear about, the ice fights and all of that trash. That's not important. This is important. This is what you guys need to pay attention on and keep your eyes peeled because this is going to affect your livelihood. I know you guys seem like whatever, but it is something important. It affects your lifestyle. It affects everything you do in this country. And I know you guys don't care, you guys are on the phone and everything on Instagram, but this is something that we're out here fighting for. We need a government of action that fights for working families. We need a government of action that fights for working families. And this is what the Center for Political Innovation is here for. It's for the working families of America that never had a chance. This is for us now. So we're doing this for you guys. This is for the American tax-paying person, civilian. This is for you guys. We are fighting for the American people, the working class people. No more wars. End the wars. We can't afford the wars anyway, so why are we getting involved with that? Tell Ukraine to fix that. That's their problem, not ours. Russia is not our enemy. Russia is not our enemy. Russia is not our enemy.